What's up guys, today we're going to be going over One Piece chapter 1166. I'm skipping this video as I read through the chapter so you guys can hear my initial thoughts, and I've actually not been spoiled at all in this chapter, which is mad rare for One Piece chapters, so I'm excited to hop into it completely blind for once. Okay, so the title is New Tales. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder if this is going to be referring to the propaganda that was spun off the God Valley, or if the chapter is going to be like, about Roger Gobb, maybe even Rocks on his deathbed, all thinking about the next generation. And then obviously, Blackbeard, Dragon, and Shanks being the new tales that will, of course, eventually lead to Ace and Luffy as well. The cover page is kind of wholesome. Everyone's eating sweet potatoes at some sort of a holiday event. At least that's what it looks like. This is probably a reference to something happening in Japan currently. I'm not entirely sure, but enough of that. Let's get into the chapter proper. Whoa, okay, Roxy's still alive. Man, Roger and Gobb look well. Is that Saint bumbling? Oh my days, bro. What is this fraud doing, yo? Okay, let me chill. Before all that, Roxy's talking about something to do with the island. Wait, does he know it's getting moved? Wait, how does he know about that? Okay, anyway. Okay, him telling them not to die, Loki adds to this theory I've had that Rox, Roger, and Gobb are not really enemies, and they're more like, there's gonna be a weird comparison, but they're like Pokemon rivals. So yeah, it's always on sight when they see each other, but like, there's no bad blood between them, like, ever. I know this is a really weird comparison, but that's the vibe I'm getting between these three. I guess another comparison that like probably make more sense would be like, they're kind of like Goku and Vegeta, just kind of in a three-way sense. But anyway, let's see what this blonde bastard Garling's about to do. Okay, so we see that Somers is here. Okay, we know Gaban and Rayleigh are on the way, so I'm thinking that this has to be where Somers gets his PTSD. Like, we know that like Somers, like, he's scared of Gaban. Like, this has to be it, right? This has to be where like he gets it, right, from Gaban, right? Like, surely. Okay, of course this banana looking fraud actually kills Rocks, bro. Like, bro, Garling, bro, I'm so sick of this man, bro. Like, so far this man's gotten off screen twice, and like, what? He's killed a pregnant woman and a dude who was already dying, bro. Like, he's, bro. Is this what the Celestial Dragons were talking about when they're saying he distinguished himself at God Valley? Like, is this it, bro? Like, he killed a man that's not even 1 HP, bro. Wait, what? So they just left Roger and Gobb after killing Rocks? Wait, why not just kill all three of them? Bro, the Celestial Dragons are like turning out to be the most incompetent people on the entire planet. Like, I swear, like, they've literally never done anything that makes sense. You see all three of like the most dangerous people in the current era, aside from Emo, of course, like chilling there, ripe for the pickings, and Garland just goes, nah, I'm gonna kill Rocks, I'm gonna leave the other two. Only thing I can think of is that off screen what I was saying with Gaban and like actually happened, like Gaban and Rayleigh showed up and fought the flippin' Holy Knights, whatever, and then they took Gobb and Roger by force, right? That's the only way this makes sense. Because like obviously like Rocks gets stabbed and it cuts away to this, because like there's genuinely no way that they were just like, oh, they just stabbed Rocks and then just left. Like, that's, I know they're stupid, I know the Celestial Dragons are incompetent, but there's no way they're this incompetent. Okay, so we see that Emu just really just nuked the entire island. And I guess we see why this chapter is called New Tales. A bunch of the big players in the present day all sail away from the island as it was being destroyed. Honestly, am I missing something? Why was the island crumbling before the thunder and everything, and what I'm assuming the ancient weapon was fired? Like, we have to find out how Emu is doing all this. Like, why doesn't he just spam this move if he can do it whenever? Because, for example, he knew Luffy was on Wano for a while. Like, he could have just dealt with him then and there. Then again, like I said, Emu's a Celestial Dragon, and they're proving to be paragons for incompetence. Next up, we cut to the Roger Pirates after Roger's recovered a bit, and we see them find Baby Shanks. Okay, now for you guys that may not know, we have actually seen Oda's storyboard for this exact scene before. I'll probably put it up while I'm editing. And this is basically the exact same scene. Now, I do believe Film Red did adapt this scene, but obviously Film Red didn't know what Roger looked like at this point, so they assumed he looked like how he does in the Oda flashback, since Oda kind of just gave him a bunch of scribbles. But it's basically the exact same scene. Like, I'm pretty sure all the characters are even in the exact same positions, like Shanks is in the same pose. Like, I know there's someone who I think on Twitter drew their own version of this scene as well, and it, like, if you see their like interpretation of it and like the way it's drawn in this chapter, it's almost the exact same as well. Like, yeah, like Oda's had the scene in his mind for a while now. So we end up cutting to everyone seeing the news about Rocks, and we see the first canonical agenda pusher in the One Piece universe. This random is in repping the war of oppression since the era of Rocks. That world government propaganda is putting in overtime. Anyway, we cut to Marine HQ and see Garp and Sengoku's reactions to the article. This guy Sengoku, bro. I actually used to like Sengoku. What do you mean if the top brass do something insane, you could turn a blind eye to it? Just pack it up.
Corruption is not bad. Corruption is only bad if I'm not involved.
Yes.
But if I'm part of that corruption, I'll defend it.
You know all the slander Garp's been getting in these weeks? Sengoku should be getting it. Oda has made it abundantly clear he's the self-proclaimed righteous fool that's just a government dog. Garp, on the other hand, is literally only here to protect the weak and low-level marines from the corrupt and fundamentally broken system that's in place. And you know, I realized something as I was reading this chapter. You know why Garp wanted Luffy, Ace, and Sabo to be marines? So that they could be close to him and have his protection, since if they're pirates, Garp can't be there to help them at all times and he can't protect them. That's why Garp cries when Ace is getting executed and Garp can't do anything about it. If Ace was a marine, Garp would have been able to protect him. Garp wasn't trying to force his grandkids to work for demons at the top, he just wanted them under his protection. Hell, even with them as pirates, Garp still helps Luffy on Water 7 since Garp pretends to go there to capture him so no other marines go, then orders his soldiers not to capture Luffy and then lets Luffy escape. Garp's motivation has always been to protect those who can't protect themselves, and everyone who's saying, why didn't he just break the system itself? Keep in mind that everyone else does the exact same thing. I want you to keep that same energy for Rocks, for Roger, for Kaido, for Big Mom, for everyone, okay? Literally everyone that's seen evil so far hasn't dared to run it back. Rock saw him and Rock spent years prepping to try and take him down and failed miserably, even with Garp, Roger, Big Mom, Whitebeard, and Kaido helping. And none of the people that saw Imo on that day even dared to run it back. Roger spent the rest of his day sailing like there was nothing to be worried about. Big Mom and Kaido and Whitebeard, they just started their own cruise, you know, doing their own thing. And Garp, he actually decided to try and protect the people that he know can't protect themselves. Like, come on, that's pretty noble if you ask me. I don't know what you want from this guy. Even Monkey D. Dragon, the man that's been getting so much glaze since like the God Valley stuff has started in his flashback, right? He hasn't dared to attack the 5 elders in Emu yet. Yeah, he crippled the like food stocks on Mary Jaw. Those aren't the 5 elders. That's not Emu. The entire series, all he's done is grab pre-time skip Smoker and look east, but somehow he's avoiding all the strays, and I'm tired of it. Hop off my boy Garp. Alright, let's get back into the chapter now. So we cut back to Elbaf, and man, this is tragic. Rocks really was Loki Shanks, and I can't even imagine how Luffy would have reacted if Shanks went off one day and just died. But what's honestly even more tragic is what's going on with Harold. We see him completely brutalizing this giant that was stealing from this town because of all the frustration he's feeling. And the frustration makes sense too. He's looking for someone to blame in the moment. All Harold wanted was for Elbaf to have good relations with the world government, and because of giants like this thief, it made it that much harder to make that a reality, which shaped so many of Harold's decisions, and led Harold to ultimately forsaking Rocks and leaving him to die. And deep down we can see Harold blames himself, but he's trying to shift the blame into what made him do what he did, just so that grieving becomes a bit easier. It's very subtle, but I think it's great character writing by Oda and makes Harold feel like a real person, because this is how real people do react to grief. Okay, well maybe not the beating people half to death part, but the looking for something to blame when deep down you blame yourself part. We cut to a Navy HQ detention cell where we see Dragon imprisoned, and we see what might be him and Garp's final interaction ever. And man, you can see how deep Dragon's words cut into Garp's heart in just this singular panel. But we see a key clang. To me, it looks like Garp gave Dragon the key to escape. To me, this adds to Garp only caring for his family. Garp from the very beginning has been a character whose whole thing has been about his deep love for others despite his unconventional ways of showing it. And yeah, he's letting Dragon go despite coming off what they've both gone through because he doesn't want to force his son to see him every day if he hates him. Now the reason this is different to Luffy and Ace is cause they've never said they hate Garp. They've had fights but never said anything like this. Sure, they made it vocal they don't want to be Marines, but the only reason Garp pushed the idea is because that's the only way he knew to keep them safe. Man, I might have to make a Garp video because I think his character is being unjustly dragged through the mud, and I feel like this chapter and this like entire flashback honestly is just showing that like Garp doesn't deserve all the slander he's getting. Now we cut back to Elbaf and we finally see Harold treat Ida like his actual wife and both his sons like his actual sons. Honestly, it took bro long enough. I still don't know why he allowed the Elbaf elders or whoever those old dudes were to convince him to basically banish his actual family to the peasant realm and make him have another one with that clown Astrid or whatever her name was. Better late than never, I guess. Hopefully they live a long and happy life and nothing insanely tragic happens now. Now we see Harold sail to the old Marine Fort and bro just straight up rips out his horns. Did we not just see bro talk about how he doesn't care about appearances and how trying to please the world government is what led to the current set of circumstances? Why is bro still trying to please this damn organization? Then again, I can't gas Garp and smack talk Harold too much. At the end of the day, Harold's motivations are basically the same. He wishes for giants to not be persecuted by the world government nor feared by the general public, which basically falls under protecting. I don't know, I guess it's because I have the benefit of seeing where this all ends that I find this decision a lot more stupid than it might actually be. At least from Harold's point of view, since he obviously doesn't know about Eden. I honestly think if Harold was on God Valley, he wouldn't have done this. Speaking of Emu, after Harold says he's even willing to become a slave, we see that infamous eye stare. And this is interesting to me, because is it implying that Emu's hearing what Harold says in the moment? Or is it just Oda reminding us of the looming threat of Emu that is indeed coming soon? Either way, I think this is definitely confirmation that Harold is getting Domi reversed if we didn't already know that, since that is how Emu makes slaves. And honestly, now that we've seen Emu did it by stabbing rocks, do we think that Emu Domi reversed a bunch of giants and then got them to stab Harold to Domi reversing him maybe? And that's a scene that Loki walked in on at the start of the flashback. I think that might generally be it honestly, and then Loki had to kill his dad to stop Harold in his rampage. I don't remember if he knew any of this before, that's just like what I'm deducing from this chapter. If he knew this before, maybe I'm just like, saying stuff we already know, Captain Obvious over here, but like, that's just what I'm, deducing from this. But now that we know it takes Conqueror's coding at max output to beat someone that's been Domi reversed, I think this theory makes even more sense because after Gaban said be mindful of how you use Conqueror's Haki, Loki said, "You've helped me realize my own power," or something along those lines, later in the chapter before asking to come with to help fight Emu and his army. So yeah, I think Harold gets turned and Loki will stop him while not realizing that he's using Conqueror's coding. Only thing I'm not fully grasping is how Gaban and Shanks fit into it all, since I believe they did go to the temple that day. And we know somehow Gaban knows how to stop the Domi reversing people, which seemingly did not happen on God Valley, and Shanks beats and chains up Loki at some point. So we're gonna have to look out for those things, which I'm sure we're gonna figure out soon. So it seems like everything with Emo and the events that happened on that day are gonna happen in like the next couple of chapters. That's gonna be it for the chapter review. Trying out a different style of video this time, with the semi-reaction and clear my thoughts out there. But I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are, your predictions. Be sure to leave them in the comments below. And with that being said, I just want to thank you all for watching and have a great rest of your day or night whenever you're watching this. And I hope to see you all next time.